Hidden beneath a quiet Chinese village lies a labyrinth that shouldn't exist, perfectly carved chambers, millions of tons of missing stone, and no record of who built it. The Longyou Caves Mystery isn't just archaeology, it's proof that history forgot something it was never meant to remember. The still waters of Longyou always reflected more than the moon, they reflected mystery. For centuries, locals claimed that lake had no bottom, as if it marked the border between the world of the living and the silence of the ancients. No one dared to question it, because in rural China, tradition weighs more than truth. Yet it was impossible to ignore the feeling that something there didn't belong to nature alone. Time, however, has a strange way of keeping secrets beneath the surface. At night, when the wind swept through the village, the sound of water seemed to whisper forgotten stories. Some said they could hear echoes of hammers and distant voices, as if someone was still working beneath the rocks. No one could explain it, but everyone felt it. Something was alive down there, an ancient memory. And it was in this setting, between superstition and curiosity, that one man decided to look too deep. What he was about to do would break 2,000 years of silence, paving the way for what we now call the Longyou Caves Mystery. But before that, the lake still had to reveal its first secret. Wu and I wasn't an archaeologist, nor did he seek fame. He was just a curious farmer, tired of hearing the same stories about the bottomless lake. While others mocked the idea of draining something sacred, he stared at the water with a question no one else dared to ask. What if all this is just fear disguised as tradition? That simple boldness was the first strike against a millennia of superstition. Armed with basic tools and stubborn courage, Wu began the process that would change the village's destiny. Draining the lake seemed impossible, almost like provoking the ancient gods. Yet day by day, he watched the water level drop. For some, it was sacrilege. For him, it was the beginning of an answer. The villagers watched from afar, torn between fear and fascination. And when the first shadows began to emerge beneath the water's surface, even the skeptics fell silent. Because at that moment, the Longyou Caves Mystery ceased to be legend and became reality. But no one was ready for what would appear when the bottom finally showed itself. The water receded slowly, revealing the impossible bit by bit, as if time itself was ashamed to show what it had hidden. First came the stones, then the shapes, until a pattern began to emerge. Wu and I saw steps, perfect steps, where once there had been only mud and silence. His heart raced because nature doesn't draw straight lines. This wasn't chance, it was construction. The villagers gathered around, some making signs of protection, others kneeling in disbelief. An old man said the gods had placed the lake there to hide something from human eyes. Another swore he saw reflections of torches, as if someone below had lit an ancient light. Between fear and fascination, the whole village understood they were standing before something that belonged to a past no one had ever written down. And as the last layer of water disappeared, the ground revealed not a hole, but an entrance. A stone portal, so perfectly carved that it defied logic. In that instant, the Longyou Caves Mystery stopped being just curiosity. It became an invitation to descend into the heart of the unknown. With a trembling lantern in hand, Wu Anai took his first step into the darkness. The sound of dripping water echoed like an ancient clock, marking time that seemed to slow with every step. The air was cold, metallic, and every breath carried the weight of centuries compressed beneath the earth. It felt less like entering a cave and more like stepping into a memory the world had forgotten. The flickering light revealed something monumental: smooth walls, symmetrical columns, and a ceiling so high it vanished into shadow. No soot marks, no tool traces, everything was too precise, too harmonious, as if invisible hands had shaped the stone. This wasn't chance, it was engineering, or perhaps something beyond what modern engineering could explain. Wu moved carefully, feeling the solid ground beneath his feet. Each step felt like a dialogue between man and earth. The Longyou Caves Mystery began to unfold before him, bringing with it one haunting question: who had created these ancient underground structures and why? At the heart of the structure, Wu and I realized it wasn't a simple cave, it was a subterranean city. The spaces connected as if someone had drawn an invisible map beneath the earth. The ceiling rose nearly 80 feet high, and the main hall was larger than two basketball courts side by side. It was impossible to believe human hands had crafted it over 2,000 years ago. The walls reflected the lantern light, revealing perfectly symmetrical cuts. Every surface was smooth as glass, untouched by time, as if the years themselves feared to mark the stone. The pattern repeated identically, no cracks, no flaws. It was like observing an underground factory of precision, a creation so meticulous it defied modern archaeological logic. As Wu walked deeper, a realization took root within him. This had been planned. And more than that, it had been built using lost ancient technology humanity had long forgotten. The Longyou Caves Mystery was no longer just archaeology. It was a direct challenge to history, but the true shock was yet to come. Days later, researchers discovered that Wu and I's finding was only the beginning. Around the village, other openings started to appear. 1, 2, then dozens. In total, 24 identical caves, each with the same design, the same precision, the same eerie silence. It was as if a single mind had designed everything, yet left not a trace of its existence. Archaeologists measured, compared, analyzed, and were left stunned. No accidental connections, no geometric mistakes. Each chamber seemed to communicate with the others, part of a carefully crafted network. Even the drainage and ventilation systems worked flawlessly, something impossible for a civilization supposedly lacking advanced engineering knowledge. But the most baffling detail was the historical silence. No Chinese texts, no imperial records, nothing mentioned the ancient underground structures of Longyou. It was a void in the timeline, a deliberate absence, and perhaps the greatest unsolved archaeological discovery in Asia. That silence began drawing attention from far beyond China. When the Longyou Caves Mystery hit the headlines, the village became a point of fascination, but the excitement was short-lived. Within days, government trucks arrived, followed by men in dark suits with unreadable expressions. Fences went up, access was blocked, and villagers were ordered to stay away. The site that had once symbolized discovery became a restricted zone. Officials claimed it was for archaeological preservation, but their behavior felt more like containment than protection. Independent scientists were denied entry, and only selected teams could enter, always under supervision. The once proud villagers now watched in silence, suspecting something much larger had been found underground. Rumors spread quickly. Some said strange artifacts were removed at night. Others spoke of metallic noises from the dig sites. Nothing was confirmed, but one phrase echoed through the village. Maybe what they found wasn't meant for the public to see. The hidden history of China seemed, once again, to be carefully buried. Over time, a question emerged that no archaeologist could answer. Where did the stones go? Estimates suggest millions of tons were removed to create the caves. In modern terms, that's the equivalent of over 400 Olympic-sized pools of solid rock simply gone, no debris, no trail, no transport marks. It was as if matter itself had been erased. Some researchers suggested the material was used to build nearby temples, but no analysis confirmed the link. The Longyou stones had a different density and texture, and no known temple showed signs of reuse. Others ventured bolder theories: chemical dissolution, vibration transport, even sound manipulation, ideas that flirt with lost ancient technology. Nothing of this scale disappears without a trace. Yet the soil, the rivers, and the records remain spotless, as if someone had deliberately erased every clue. The Longyou Caves Mystery seemed to hide not only what was built, but also what was removed. And soon, a new theory would raise even deeper questions. Among experts, a troubling idea began to circulate. What if the cave builders had used techniques humanity has since forgotten? The wall finish, so perfectly reflected light evenly, seemed impossible for stone tools. No such traces indicated torchlight, as if illumination came from another method, maybe reflected sunlight or some primitive form of light conduction. Some engineers proposed that vibration or sound could have been used to cut the rock, A theory that sounds fantastical yet echoes ancient tales of civilizations shaping stone through frequency. The notion is provocative that parts of what we call modern technological progress are actually rediscoveries of what once was known. If that's true, then the Longyou Caves Mystery isn't just an excavation, it's a reminder. A sign that humanity once reached levels of knowledge we now dismiss as myth simply because we can't explain them. And the similarities with other ancient sites soon showed that Longyou wasn't alone in this enigma. The discoveries in Longyou began resonating beyond China's borders. Researchers noticed patterns similar to those found in underground temples across the world, from the chambers of Derinkuyu in Turkey to the tunnels under the Egyptian desert and the mysterious passages of Cusco in Peru. The measurements, the angles, even the carving styles seemed to follow the same architectural logic, a shared language lost to time. It was as if distant civilizations, separated by oceans and millennia, shared the same hidden knowledge. An invisible map of impossible constructions, all guarding the same secret, mastery over stone and silence. Some historians begin calling them sister cities, fragments of a global memory that slipped through the cracks of recorded history. This theory stirred more than curiosity, it shook academic pride. Because if the Longyou Caves Mystery was part of a worldwide pattern, then perhaps the hidden history of China was only one chapter in a much larger story. A story connecting peoples who should never have met. And maybe the next clue was hidden within the carvings left on Longyou's walls. On the cave walls, mysterious figures appeared among the geometric perfection. Horses, fish, and birds, all carved with symbolic precision, as if carrying silent messages. To some, they were simple art. To others, fragments of a code left by the builders, a proto-language speaking through symbols instead of words. The horse seemed to represent strength and movement, perhaps the energy needed to raise the impossible. The fish symbolized continuity and life, the link with water, the source of the mystery. The bird bridged what was above and what was buried below. This trio repeated across several chambers, part of a ritual or maybe a symbolic system meant to mark purpose and meaning. Some scholars believe these sculptures were a kind of signature, a way to immortalize the identity of a lost civilization. Others see them as a message for the future, a reminder that the Longyou Caves Mystery was never meant to be understood, but rediscovered. And the decision to keep most of it sealed only deepens the feeling that the secret is still being protected. Today, only one of the 24 caves is open to the public. The rest remain blocked, surrounded by signs warning of preservation, safety, and structural risk. But to many scholars and locals, those words sound more like a veil than an explanation. After all, if these caves are the greatest unsolved archaeological discovery in China, why hide the rest? Some say the government fears the impact of new findings on historical narratives. Others believe certain discoveries challenge the accepted timeline of Chinese civilization, and acknowledging them would rewrite history itself. Instead of archaeology, what we see is narrative control, a careful curation of what the public can and cannot know. And so, the Longyou Caves Mystery remains protected by silence. An official, polished, bureaucratic silence that masks curiosity with caution. But what is truly being preserved, the stones or the secret? Perhaps the answer lies in something time tried to erase, but still whispers beneath the surface. Over the years, Longyou stopped being just a point on the map. It became a mirror of humanity itself. What was lost there might not be just stone or tools, but the memory of an era when the impossible was ordinary. Millions of blocks vanished, yet what truly disappeared was the record of who we were when we still dared to create without limits. The ancient underground structures stand firm, untouched by time, as if guarding a secret that only reveals itself to those who truly listen. Perhaps each pillar is a fragment of memory, a silent reminder that part of Earth's history remains buried, waiting for someone brave enough to descend and see for themselves. And if that courage still lives within us, then the Longyou Caves Mystery is more than an archaeological enigma, it's an invitation. A call to question what we accept as truth, and to remember that the past sometimes reveals itself only to those who have the patience to hear silence. If you've made it this far, comment bottomless, so I'll know you descended with me to the bottom of this mystery. They say history is written by the victors, but what if the real story was buried instead? The Longyou Caves Mystery proves that some truths were never lost, they were erased. And maybe, just maybe, we weren't the first advanced civilization after all. If you want to keep uncovering the secrets the past tried to hide, subscribe now and turn on notifications. The next mystery might change everything you think you know.